Okay, good night, everyone. Welcome to the 15th, no, I think it's the 18th installment to the Ball Experience podcast. I am here with a very, very, very special guest. I have been meaning to get on the show. Unfortunately, we don't have the entire cast with us tonight. Think of this episode as a side quest, if you will. Um, Tonight, I think we'll just brush up a bit on relationships and women. Tonight it'll be a short one. Um, and yeah, I'll just get straight into it. So first, I'll just ask my guest. Maybe just say a little bit about himself, and then I guess I guess we'll go into each other's weeks.
Hello, good night to everyone. So, my name is Wayne. As you'd probably guess, there's some relationship with the host. I will let you tell it. I will let him tell you. But about myself, a little about myself. So, I am a father and a husband, father of five, husband of one wife, married for 23 years, 24 years. I love the outdoors. I love stuff relating to family life. I have a special interest in family life matters. I like to read. I like to be in the know. I like to be um, I like to engage in positive stuff. I like to be around positive people. I like to challenge myself, and I also like learning to do new things. I don't like to remain stagnant. Um, so yeah, that's a little bit of myself. I mean, there's a lot more, but yeah, in a nutshell.
We're recording a podcast. Um, Mind the background. It's a bit bustling, a bit noisy. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Um, yeah. So as you guys might have guessed, that is my dad. So like I said before, we'll be touching a bit on relationships and women as well. I think he got caught up in speaking on himself that he forgot to tell us about the week, but that's fine. I'll go first. My week was okay. Um, it was pretty vanilla, if you ask me. Exams are about wrapped up for me, so things are just slowing down really. Other than that, um, nothing really crazy. Just really just allowing the mind to relax and I guess get ready for the next week. And yes, Mr. Guest, tell us about your week.
My week was my week is usually very hectic. And it's very tiring, but I was looking forward to the closure of school. So a lot of my work has to do with daily transportation of contracted students to and from school. So it's whilst it is a form of income for me that I depend on, I also look forward to the closure of school because it's it's very labor intensive and it's a very stressful job. So I look forward to the holidays when it comes. My days are usually like 17 to 18 hours long. I have very long days, so I really value the time that I get when I get a break from doing some of those things. Yeah, so but it was a hectic week as usual. Um, Comes with the territory, but it was fulfilling.
Okay, as you guys said, that's fine. Um, you said fulfilling. Okay. So, like I said, since it's a bit of a shortened episode, I will not be delving into tangents as I usually do. So, um, what am I thinking? All right. So the first thing I want to ask, usually, with the main cast, there's this. I don't know what to call it, but they have this view, right? Um, okay. Let me just put it into words quickly. I'll just ask the question straight away. What do women bring to the table? So usually when I throw this question out to, new guests or the regular cast members, the general response is that women don't bring anything to the table because okay, they give examples like okay, I'm already cooking, I'm already cleaning. Um, like what does she bring that I am not already doing? I'm not too sure if you understand what I'm getting at. Um,
That sounds usually. That sounds usually like what. That question, first of all, sounds a lot like the question that women usually ask. What do men bring to the table? Because women have the opinion that they cook, they clean, they take care of their own finances and stuff like that. So that actually sounds. I'm a little surprised to hear that's a question that men are asking because that is a question that I know women usually ask. So that's a more common question that comes from women, not necessarily men. So and the reason why it is more common with women asking that question is because men do not like to do some of those domestic tasks that women want to see them partaking of more, like cooking and washing and doing dishes and stuff like that. They they usually are the ones stuck with those chores. And the reason why they ask the question is because they raise the argument that they have to work just like men go to a job 8 to 4:30 and still come home and do those domestic chores. That is why they ask the question, what do men bring to the table? So hearing that men are asking that question, that's a little puzzling because I'm thinking men are not the ones who usually stay at home most of the time to do these things. Um, but to answer the question anyway, what do women bring to the table? I think women bring a lot because women are very dynamic. They're very adaptive. They know. I think they're in some cases even more flexible than men are because the way most men are in their thinking, we are very we are programmed differently. So we follow a certain structure, and we do things a certain way. Women are not necessarily that way. They are more flexible in their thinking and are very innovative also in getting things done. I think they bring a lot to the table. They bring strength to the table. I think they bring creativity. They're very innovative. I think they're very adaptive. In some cases, they can be very supportive. Now, what I'm saying is not absolute because obviously you have certain cases where women are not those things. But I'm speaking, I think,
of the ideal.
the ideal. Yes. Yes. So women, and not to exclude men. I mean, men bring a lot to the table. Both men and women bring stuff to the table. It might not be the same things. They might very well be different things that they bring to the table. But then they would need to put their heads together and see how the different things that they bring to the table complement each other to make it work, right? So it may not what the other person is lacking at the table does not necessarily have to be a disadvantage. You can see how it can be a complement and not a disadvantage. You understand? Two people may bring the same thing to the table, but one can do it better. You understand? Or one may not be able to do a certain thing better, but because of the complementary nature of what the other person is bringing, it can still work. Yeah.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is, they have to put their heads together and try to figure out, okay, my skills are this, your skills are this. Let's hash it out. Let's work together and sort it out. Okay, that's a very balanced answer. Okay, let's see. Um, Another question. What would you say? What would you say are the prerequisites for any individual? Could be young, could be old, when getting into a relationship? What would you say? Is there groundwork that needs to be done first? Is it fine if you just jump into it? Just dip your toe. What as a seasoned veteran, I believe you have experience under your belt. Tell me what. Yeah, basically just try to give some insight.
That's a very interesting question. And that question has a lot. I mean, the answer to that question is a lot. There's no one magic pill or one magic bullet to answer that question. That question is very broad. Definitely, it is something that people want to take their time to do. There's a saying that goes, "Fools rush in." Yeah, that is very true. Um, when you're going into a relationship, you want to really do as much research as possible. You want to really take your time to get to know the individual that you're getting involved with properly. People tend to generally put their best foot forward when they enter in a relationship. So you're definitely not going to know the negatives in the early stages of a relationship, because people are usually mindful of how they step and how they deport themselves in the early stages of a relationship. Most times it is after the relationship has begun and well into it that people get relaxed. And when they get relaxed, then you start seeing certain things start to manifest. So it depends on the two individuals how quickly they move along. Some people move at a very slow pace, and others at a very quick pace. And I think it has to do with how quickly they get comfortable. Because when you start getting comfortable, that's when you start to see things. Okay, as long as they're on their P's and Q's, you're not likely to see those issues, right? But I can touch on a few things just from the top of my head that one needs to spend time. Looking into before getting involved seriously into a relationship. So one of those things is once you have identified the person that you are interested in, you need to ask yourself the question: what is it about that person that interests you? What is it about that one person, as opposed to the 100 other people that are out there, that attracts you, that draws you in? And you need to examine what that thing is and see if it is something that's going to keep you grounded. For example, is it something superficial? Is it something that has depth and meaning to it? Or is it something that will blow over a short period of time? I could go deeper into watching how that person interacts with their peers of the same sex, watching how that person interacts with the opposite sex, their peers, watching how that person reacts to authority, listening to how that person perceives authority, rules, and stuff like that. You want to find out how that person interacts with their family, their parents, mother and father, and the other siblings. You want to find out how that person interacts with their extended family members. Of that, these things might seem very insignificant, but these things are extremely important. You want to find out the kind of background that person comes from. I mean, when they're amongst their family and friends, you want to observe how they behave, how they carry themselves, the type of conversations that they have, and the things that they say. I mean, you can learn so much by observing, by listening, in these different circumstances. You could learn a lot, because the way somebody reacts, for example, a way a young lady might react to her father, okay, and her views about management at work, or her views about her supervisor, somebody who supervises her, or her views about her co-workers and so on. These things, these views, shapes that, or gives you an insight into that person's thinking, how they process things and how they perceive things. Because how they see these things, their worldview, their community view, their family view, their people view, is going to affect your relationship. Believe it or not, it is going to affect your relationship. Okay, so yeah, so these are some things. I mean, later on I could go more in depth into what exactly or how exactly they can affect. But these are things. These are little things going into a relationship that you want to pay very close attention to.
Okay. Well said. What about um I realize you spoke a lot on the outward. So basically more on observing the prospect, or your partner to be. Um is there any internal work to be done? Is there any introspection that should take place before entering a relationship? Um, you know, or is it just okay? You know what? I'm fine. Despite my traumatic past, I think I'm ready. I could just jump in. Is there any internal work to be done as well? When when jumping into a relationship.
Yeah. So another good point that you've raised. Of course, as a matter of fact, before you even contemplate going into a relationship with somebody, it is absolutely important to first understand yourself. Okay, so introspection is, I'd say, is one of the number one things that you want to do before you get, because getting involved in a relationship with somebody else, it means that it's like two people coming together. They may have been raised differently. They obviously think differently because no two people are alike. They may share common may share common values on certain things, certain moral values in common, but believe it or not, they are still very different. Okay, people process things differently, they think differently, and in their thinking, they're going to manifest different things, or manifest things differently. Okay, so before you want to get involved in that, you really want to have a good handle on yourself. Know yourself. Know what pisses you off, what ticks you off, what 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 drives you, what motivates you, what demotivates you, what you want to know all these different things about yourself, because these things are going to come in very handy, and they will determine how you react to the person that you're getting involved with. You'll want to know, you'll want to deal, if you have any issues in your past, you'll definitely want to deal with that. Some people seek refuge in relationships, like rebound relationships. So they seek refuge in relationships to get away from experiences of their past or experiences of their present, or to unmask issues that they're going through. So, and that itself is dangerous. That's like a ticking time bomb. So you really want to make sure you get a handle on yourself, whatever issues that you're going through. So just give me a common example. If you come from an abusive relationship, or you came from an abusive home where you were abused as a child, whether it's physically, sexually, whatever. If those wounds have not been healed properly or been dealt with by a professional, you're taking that baggage into a relationship. Now, the partner that you, or the person you may be going into, whether it's dating or whatever, that person may be coming, you don't know what background they're coming from themselves. They may be carrying baggage too. So imagine, the two of you all end up in a relationship. He's probably looking for shelter, you're looking for refuge, and that's an immediate problem already. You understand? So you go in there with unresolved issues, and the other person comes with a certain level of expectations. I mean, relationships are just so dynamic. And personally, I think there's just a lot of groundwork that has to be done. If you want to get good results, you must absolutely have a very good foundation. It's like building a superstructure. If you have a weak foundation, your superstructure is not likely to be fortified. It's not going to be very strong. It's going to crumble under pressure. In an earthquake, some kind of natural disaster, it will crumble. Whereas if you spend time putting a solid foundation together, you expect it to withstand, the test of time. So relationships are the same way. If you don't take time to build it in the early stages, you're not going to have something that's going to last a long time. So to answer your question, introspection is key. Yes, that is very important. You have to first know yourself before you get involved, with somebody else. Trying to understand somebody, you first need to understand yourself.
Okay, well said. I will just, I'll just add, since we're sharing a mic, I am not able to interrupt as usual. So just bear with me on that particular piece. But well said, well said, well said, well said, well said. Um, what really stuck out to me was in all of what you said, really, was understanding yourself. So, what I want to ask you is, um, as a young person, or I guess young adult, how how does one go about understanding themselves exactly? Maybe you could give examples, maybe when you were younger, or maybe a story, or when you were younger and what you did to find yourself, to really find yourself, and how that benefited you, sorry, on your journey and so on.
Okay, so how does one understand oneself? I think one has to obviously, first have to be honest with yourself, and you have to be honest with yourself and be open with your own self. So, for example, let's see. So when I was growing up, I had and I think everybody has that. You have an idea as to, what you have an idea as to what you want to be in life. You don't have an idea as to, you perceive yourself a certain way, and you see yourself in the future being a certain way. For example, when I was growing up, I came from a family. We were not rich, we were not poor exactly, but you know we got by. You understand? We got by. My parents worked and they provided for us. We did not go hungry. We did not have everything that we wanted, but we had our needs met, right? And I wanted better, and I said when I grew up I wanted to do better. I wanted to be better. When I have kids, I wanted my kids to do better. I wanted them to have opportunities that I did not have. So what I'm trying to say is, even from a young age, you can set goals for yourself, right? You can set goals for yourself. Your goals will need to be realistic, and in terms of accomplishing those goals, it would really determine. It will really how how you achieve those goals would really be determined on how much you push yourself. All right. So, for example, if you said that in the future you see yourself um, owning or having a master's or doctorate, if you don't push yourself academically in that, you're not going to accomplish it. Okay. If you said you wanted to buy a car but you don't find a job, how are you going to buy the car? You understand? So your goals, after you set your goals, then you need to line up your, like I say, line up your ducks. You need to line them up in a way that's going to lead you to accomplish those goals, right? So your goals have to be in alignment with your, or should I say, your ambitions and your goals need to be aligned, okay? And what you do to accomplish it or to get there needs to be in alignment. So every step of the way, whatever you do should be in alignment with accomplishing your ultimate goal. All right. When you deviate from your plan, you're driven further away from accomplishing those things. I don't sure if I make sure I stay on point with the question. And I think your question had to do with knowing yourself. So I think first with being open to yourself, like I said earlier, you would know your temperament, know the kind of temperament that you have. Are you somebody who gets frustrated easily? Are you somebody who's very anxious? Are you somebody who you quick with your mouth and slow with your brain? Like some people talk they talk first and they think after. Yeah, right. So, are you the kind of person who you like to analyze things? You're very critical. Are you very observant? Are you the kind of person who's meticulous? Are you the kind of person who is who always has something very positive to contribute? Are you optimist or are you a pessimist? Do you see it half empty or half full? Are you a team player? Are you independent? All these little things. These are questions you ask yourself. You should be able to know. You should be these things I've just asked. You should be able to know these things about yourself. All right. So identifying those weaknesses or strengths about yourself will, and then using that information and applying it to different circumstances, you can see how you or how you shape yourself or how you shape your personality, right? So, for example, if you know you're more of a pessimist rather as opposed to being an optimist, when you're faced with a problem, you know exactly how you're going to tackle that problem. Okay, you will see the negatives, you'll see all the problems with that situation. Okay, if you're somebody who's very anxious, you're the kind of person who you'll be likely to just make a decision without thoroughly thinking of it, thinking it through. If you're the kind of person that you're very deliberate and meticulous about doing certain things, you know that when you're faced with a circumstance, you're going to be taking your time to make sure you cover, you dot your I's and you cross your T's and so on. So that's what I'm saying. When knowing yourself, these are some of the ways that you can know yourself. Knowing, what frustrates you. Knowing your boundaries as well. Knowing your boundaries is very important. You know that you can do oh so much and then you cannot do beyond that. So that when you're faced with something, you should know what you can accept and what you should not accept. You should be able to know what you're getting into and what you should not get into, because you know your limitations, you know your boundaries. So that's some of the examples I can give of knowing yourself. And the more you can know yourself, the better you're positioned to deal with certain things.
Okay. Very well said. I see we are close to the 30-minute mark, so I'll just throw out one last question. So what consider today's climate? We have a lot of very, I'll say, lost. Yeah, I guess lost, or for lack of a better word, lost individuals. And with what I just said, and the context I just mentioned, at what age do you think is appropriate for a young individual to get married? Some people say get into it young, 23, 24. Others say wait until you get a little bit mature, when your brain fully develops, so that's like after 25, so like 28, 30. Some people say some people want to sleep around, so they say they want to wrap it up at around 45, 50. So in your experience, in your opinion, what age, or does age really even matter? Is it really something to consider when getting married?
Okay, so that's another broad questioning. That's a good question. That's a very, very broad question. And I will not have time to answer, a lot of it, but I can tell you that age does not necessarily play a factor. And my reason for saying that is because people mature at different stages. Obviously, like I said earlier, relationships are or can be very complicated. They're definitely very dynamic because you have two different people with a lot of differences coming together to make a union work. It's like taking, in some cases, almost like north and south. Some people are really not compatible, and some people are not willing to accept that. It's just so dynamic. But sticking to the question, age does not really play a big factor. I think it really has to do with maturity and readiness. There's so much going on in relationships. There's back to compatibility. There's emotional compatibility. There's physical, spiritual, mental, social compatibility. Then you have the issue of maturity. You have communication, forgiveness, being able to forgive. You have sacrificing. You have commitments. You have interests. Common interests and so on. You have you have all of these issues going on in relationships, and all of these things impact people differently. People have different views on these things. So it's age. These things don't necessarily come with age, because you have people who are 45 and they're still immature, and you have people who may be 20 and very mature. I'll use myself as an example. So I always wanted to get married early. I had planned. Like I spoke about having plans early on. So my plan, for example, I wanted to get married in my 20s. I wanted to have kids in the second half of my 20s. I wanted to have a business going by 30. No, land and house by 30, business 35, retirement in my 40s. I had everything planned out. Needless to say, that life doesn't always turn out the way you planned it. So there's a saying that goes, man proposes and God disposes. So you may make a plan that sounds perfectly fine, but remember, you're not in control of the future. Yeah, so certain things will come your way that you have absolutely no control over. So you really have to be able to adapt and so on when these things come about. So sticking to the question about what's the best time to get involved in a relationship? I may not necessarily have the direct answer for that, but what I can tell you is that one has to be totally prepared. First, I would advise that one needs to know his or herself fully. All right, understand yourself fully, know yourself, have a plan. I think need to be mature enough before getting involved in a relationship, whether it's just a superficial or a deep relationship. You would definitely need to understand yourself, and you need to take time to understand the person that you're getting to, understand the person's background. That is so important. Just give me an example that just jumps out as I'm saying this. Imagine you get involved with a young lady who does not have a good relationship with her father, or from maybe a relationship where the young lady she's coming from a single parent family where she doesn't have a father figure, or for the guy for that matter does not have a father figure. Going into a relationship with you now, that level of respect that she would have grown up with if she had a father. She does not know what it is to be loved by her father, to be hugged by her father, to be coached by her father, or him for that matter, doesn't know what it is to have a father figure there, to guide him, to counsel him, to pull him up when he needs to be pulled up, to discipline him when he needs to be disciplined. He's going into a relationship. He does not know what accountability is. He's never been taught accountability. He's never been held accountable for anything. He's never been disciplined for anything. So that's a big deficit in a relationship already to start with, you understand? She doesn't know the level of respect that she should have had for her father, that she never had. She still probably doesn't have, okay? that resentment, as a matter of fact, she probably has for her father. She's coming into a relationship now with you. So anything that you now do in that relationship that resembles her father, whether it's her father's absence, her father's lack of, showing, kindness and emotion, you're going to pay the penalty for that. You understand? So that's why I say people really have to examine what they get into, because your past can definitely shape and affect your future, and the circumstances you come from can definitely shape and affect your relationship. So it's a lot of things. It's a lot of things. It does not necessarily have to be messy, and it doesn't necessarily have to be complicated. If you have two people who are mature, they are understanding, they are fully aware, they're balanced. Very important word, balanced. They can actually make it work. They can actually make it work because they both will know what they want. They both made a plan, and they both willing to commit and work work towards the plan. It can work. It can work, but it takes a lot of sacrifice. It takes a lot of things. It takes a lot. Again, we don't have the time to go into all of it. What I would mind doing is going to different segments involving relationship. Go into to take little segments and go into detail. Go deep into it. But these questions are broad, and they obviously have a lot to discuss about them.
All right. I think that brings us to the end. Like I said, it was the thing of this episode as more of a side quest or something more on the experimental side. It's a bit different from what we usually do. But hopefully once we I guess get into the habit of it, things will be smoothened out, things will be ironed out, and it would come out much cleaner. And I suppose in regards to the segments, we can get that done. It's just a matter of scheduling, so look out for that. And I guess good night. This was the Ball Experience episode. I think 18. I think 18. Remember to leave a like. I guess subscribe. Remember, you don't always have to look at the screen once you listen to the podcast, while you're washing dishes, while you're washing clothes. You could just play the audio. And with that said, good night, everyone.